Hello, this is Sharon Fisher, and welcome to Open World. Today, we're going to have another flashback to South by Southwest 2014 in the lead from 2018. This, unfortunately, is a bit of a cut-off panel. It was a look at how games could affect and enhance education. Unfortunately, for some reason, I've lost everything but Warren Spector's part of the presentation in the intro. And so that's about as much as I can share. That said, Warren Spector, who's spent time leading a program, a multidisciplinary program, trying to teach leadership for games and everything at the University of Texas, does have an interesting perspective. And so I wanted to at least share that part, being that that's what I have. And so please enjoy the thoughts of Warren Spector from South by Southwest 2014.
Creativity helps employees capitalize on complexity and is an essential leadership style that needs to be cultivated in today's students. And we find that through arts-based learning. So it's a simple equation: creativity equals innovation plus high achievement. Creativity is at the heart not only of innovation, but high achievement in a variety of professional fields. A 2013 study at Michigan State University suggests that the correlation between art study and success in sciences occurs because fine arts positively impact skills in observation, visual thinking, recognizing and forming patterns, and manipulative ability. And from a cognitive perspective, research by Michael Posner found that arts training develops high motivation, leading to increased attention, which in turn promotes higher levels of cognition. So, speaking of high achievers, it's time to meet some. It's my distinct honor to introduce our outstanding panel today. I have immediately to my left Warren Spector, who's been making games for 30 years. He really needs no introduction in this audience, but the Walt Disney Company acquired his studio Junction Point in 2007. He's a recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Game Developers Conference and Cartoons on the Bay. His work has been featured in the Australian Centre for the Moving Image in the Smithsonian Institution. Warren received a he earned his Bachelor of Science degree in speech from Northwestern, a Master's of Art in Radio, Television, and Film from the University of Texas here in Austin, and an honorary doctorate from Columbia College of Chicago. He's director of the Dennis Sam's Gaming Academy at UT in Austin here. Then we have Dr. Doug Dempster. He's the Dean of the College of Fine Arts at the University of Texas at Austin and professor in the Department of Theater and Dance. In this role, he oversees one of the nation's leading public comprehensive colleges of the fine arts and fine and performing arts, with programs in art and art history, music, theater and dance, and the university's public art collection landmarks, as well as its multi-purpose performing arts center. Prior to his appointment at UT, he was associate director and academic dean at the Eastern School of Music at the University of Rochester, one of the leading music conservatories in the world. He's a philosopher by training and profession with research and teaching specialties in philosophical aesthetics, music theory, cultural policy studies, and the philosophy of language, and has been widely published in all of these areas. Well known for his record in reforming professional training programs for artists, Doug serves on the boards of the Strategic National Arts Alumni Project, the China Foundation for the Promotion of Education and Culture, and Polyphonic.org, the Orchestral Musicians Forum. And last but not least, we have Bruce Pennycook, who's a professor of music and director of digital arts for the College of Fine Arts at UT, where he also chairs a digital arts and media bridging disciplines program. At UT, he has developed a new course in digital media and developed a studio and graduate program in film and media composition. Prior to coming to Austin, he was appointed the Vice Principal of Information Systems and Technology for McGill University in Montreal, Canada, where he served as Associate Professor of Music and developed the Music, Media, and Technology degree program. His career has spanned professorships at the Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, and serving as director of the Stanford Jazz Ensemble and assistant conductor for the Stanford Wind Ensemble. He's also enjoyed a success as a jazz musician and composer. So please help me welcome these gentlemen, and I'm anxious to hear what they have to say. We'll let them start out with brief comments.
Well, in a way, I'm not sure exactly why I'm on this panel, because I've thought a lot about games in education, but mostly right now, as the director of the Dennis Sam's Gaming Academy, I'm thinking about how to educate people about games but I'll do my best here, and we'll see how this goes. For starters, in a sense, I almost think it's self-evident that games have a place in education. Having said that, I'm going to spend the next 5 or 10 minutes talking about it regardless, so maybe it doesn't go without saying. But I'd argue that most, if not all, games have some sort of educational component, whether they're played on a tabletop or around a table with a group of role players telling stories together, whether they're played online with virtual friends in a virtual environment. I think all games can teach children and adults a lot about the world around them, about competition and cooperation, about immediate and deferred gratification, about relationships, about history, about many, many things. Just playing games can have that power. I can tell you, speaking from personal experience, as a Dungeons & Dragons player and proud one, I learned more about Japanese culture and history from playing D&D than I ever did from reading books or watching movies or sitting in a classroom. The play of games, because I was so passionate about this, the game itself sort of pushed me into learning about the subject matter. I learned more about the nature of storytelling sitting around that table playing D&D with my friends. Learned more about Aristotle than I probably ever wanted to, and didn't even realize I was learning, which is part of the cool part. But you can learn about all of these things and the world we live in, or perhaps once lived in, simply by playing just about any game you can think of. But those are all humanities and the arts, and I know we're here to talk about the arts, and I will come back to that in a minute. But I think when most people look at games as educational tools, they think about something else. They think about STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math. That's where people immediately go. So can games play a role in STEM education? Well, I mean, in some sense, I think the fact that the White House and the Department of Education are calling me at this point, I think we can safely say that, yeah, they have something to say about that. But it's important to remember why. Games are math. They are science. If you're going to build a combat table in Dungeons & Dragons, you need to understand numbers. If you're building a computer game or a video game, you have to understand the hidden die rolls behind the scenes. Combat tables, whether in electronic games or tabletop games, are probability statements. That's all they are. If you want to give a box or a ball a push in a game, you're studying physics, and you have to understand it to make it work in a game on a screen. So I think they're math and science, but made real, made practical, and not abstract in any way. Also, naturally, games are software. I know a lot of people think games are frivolous, but in point of fact, what difference does it make if you're doing a thermostat control piece of software or a game where people are firing virtual shots at virtual... Maybe I shouldn't use that as an example. Who cares if you're playing a historical simulation like Civilization, where you're learning about how societies evolve over time? The kind of software you're building doesn't really matter. In order to make a game, you have to, or at least you should learn to code at some level. Even I'm not a programmer. No one wants me writing code, that's for sure. But understanding how code works, you can't make games if you can't make that claim, if you don't understand how they work. But you stole my thunder. I mean, the whole STEAM idea is really important. I think the key is that games are software and education made practical. And the real power of it is that it's in a form that students already care about. You don't have to drag someone kicking and screaming into a math class. You don't have to drag them into a physics course or an astronomy course or frankly a software engineering course. They already care about that stuff, okay? And I can't imagine a better foundation for education, but I'll come back to that in a minute. And I think we have to focus not just on the STEM skills, but also on the arts as well. Again, what better foundation could there be than things that people are already passionate about and want to learn? So I think we have a real opportunity using games to give players, kids, adults, non-gamers, a way to engage with our century, with what's relevant in society today, what's relevant in our technology world today, through gameplay and game development. But this is, okay, assessment is something that I'm thinking about a lot right now, building the D.D. Sam's Gaming Academy. So forgive me if this is not a subject you're interested in particularly, but I keep running into the problem of not wanting to grade play. But in an educational context, I know a lot of educators are worried, how can we have people playing games or making games? We have to know how to assess their work. Are they making progress? Are they doing well? I think we could write off the coding and math and physics side of things. The STEM aspects of writing code and of doing math and doing physics are well understood. I mean, assessment, yes, you can assess that. Go ahead and give people grades. But what do you do about the other game development skills? What do you do? I think it comes down to this one simple question. Does the software work well? Is it optimized appropriately? Is your frame rate good? Because those skills, the ability to optimize and get your code running at all, will translate to whatever kind of STEM-oriented software you end up building. So I think assessment is kind of a red herring, even though a lot of people are worried about it right now. Okay, but wait, there's one more thing I want to talk about. Talked a little bit about all games being educational, talked a little bit about STEM, talked a little bit about STEAM, talked a little bit about assessment. But there's one other aspect of games and education that I think is overlooked. Whether you're playing a multiplayer game, a single player game, it doesn't matter about the platform. Games, I think, are among the most effective, I call them moral teachers, we have access to. And by that I mean, we're the only medium, the first medium in the history of humankind. I mean, think about this. No other medium of expression has ever been able to allow you to walk in my shoes or me to walk in yours. No one has ever been able to experience firsthand what it was like to be a young Egyptian kid when the pyramids were being built. No one has ever been able to experience what a general goes through when he or she puts soldiers in harm's way. And games can do that. Simulations can do that. And at some level, all games are simulations. I'm not saying we always do that. But the fact is we have the capability of doing that. And in an educational context, I think that's not to be slighted. You can walk in someone else's shoes. And here's why. Education is 19th century education, just to be pejorative here for a minute. 19th century education is all about conveying information. It's about talking to and showing and telling. And the kids who are over at the South by Southwest Gaming Expo right now do not want to be told stuff. They want to experience it, okay? And that's what games do better than any other medium, better than movies, better than radio, better than television, better than music, better than anything, okay? When you're playing a game, you're doing it. You're doing something. And that also is a profound foundation for education and learning. So I think we're a unique medium in that sense that we're the only one that lets you experience what other people live. It's a unique time in that at this point, if you want to find a weird kid, find the one who doesn't play games, okay? Everybody is a gamer now. How many people are here playing Candy Crush Saga? Oh, I can tell you play games, don't worry about it. But, you know, in every student in every school around the world, and there is a unique need for STEAM education if we're going to stay competitive in the world market. So, here's my final thought. We'd be crazy not to use games to augment traditional education methods. I'd even argue you could replace most traditional educational methods, but let's not go that far, okay? And let the educators... Yeah, I know. Let's let the educators talk here. Okay, so that's what I have to say.